Yo, what up, C10 Nation? This is Ronnie from C10 Talk. C10 Talk is one of those podcast things. We talk C10 trucks, tech, and people. That's right, people. Because it's the people that make the scene so rad ass. The trucks are cool, but the people are cooler. You can check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, c10talk.com, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks for checking out our latest video and being part of the C10 Nation. Go back and think, okay, I'm a freshman in college. I'm a young college student. They got this thing called, Instagram, whatever, right? You're figuring it out. And to think like, hey, I'm sitting here as a, young college student that my page would be one of the top pages. And to think if I would have told you you'd have over 2 million, nonetheless 2.4 million, and that you would have interacted with some famous people in the car community. What was your thoughts like to think about that, how far you've come in 11 years?
Again, if you'd have mentioned this to me way back when, I'd have been like, yeah, okay. Just like anything else, it is, I think we all have aspirations and obviously goals to what we do to a degree, but we never fully understand or expect what could happen until it happened. And so, yeah, to think back and say to, if I were to tell my younger self, like, oh yeah, you're gonna have met Jay Leno and gone to his garage and gone to Saudi Arabia to the Dakar rally and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, all right, I'll believe it when it happens. And then, over time and 11 years goes by and you've accumulated all these experiences and met all these really cool people and gone to all these really cool places. It's honestly the most humbling experience because again, this was something that I dreamed of as a kid to be a part of in some regards, and I didn't know what avenue it was going to be. Of course, social media wasn't a thing when I was a child. It really wasn't a thing until I was almost an adult, or I was an adult at 18. So it's been a fairly short period of time if you really think about it in that regards, because all the time from when I first started liking cars when I was a 3, 4, 5 year old to all the way to 18, 19. That's a lot longer of a time, or a lot half, I guess, in time than to what I've been doing now. And so it's been super humbling and it's such a cool experience.
Well, I think the other thing too, and I'm pretty, it's refreshing to hear you say that because that means that you've got a level of gratitude for the community and then what goes on with social media. But the other thing is because you've been in social media for over 10 years, or at least let's just say IG platform, that you've seen so many pages come and go. Like you've seen
Mhm.
a handful that survive and that continue to, but people don't realize it's a shit ton of work. Like you
Oh
have to
yeah.
put in the time and go through all that. So I think that you should also know that your the fruits of your labor. Like I before we went on air, I was telling him it's kind of a generational page in the perspective that my son, who's now he's 21, but back when social media, let's just say he's 15, 16 at the time, and then we're sharing this page. Like there's a lot of times where he's sending me something from your page, I'm sending him something, and then he'll be like, Dad, I'm on that page. I already saw that. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, cool, I get it. But so I think that that your hard work and that constantly making sure that there's good content out there is really why you're successful.
Yeah, and I mean, I that put a smile on my face when you told me that initially, man, because I was just it's hearing stuff like that that really makes it worth it. At the end of the day, obviously I enjoy it still, but it's like when you hear stories like that, or when I hear people tell me that that I've inspired them to do anything, to get going building on their car again, or I inspired them to, because I have my G body, which I'm sure we'll talk about. They'll be like, man, you inspired me to start building mine again or to buy one or whatever. And it's crazy to think about because it's like, at some point, anything that I've done, I took inspiration from somebody else or a group of people that I looked up to. And to consider that people are looking up to me in any regards like that is it's crazy because I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not somebody that's worth looking up to, but it's insane that that many people care enough about what I'm doing, at the end of the day. So it's really cool.
Yeah, do you find that that's a challenge within having American Muscle HD and then your personal page too, to balance those two?
Yeah, I mean, because the one thing with the personal page is just I have it's a little more free reign, right? Because I've got a multitude of hobbies. It's not just cars, and so I post a little bit of everything. I post my like obviously my personal life, me going to the gym and whatever, and it's more, that's where people can get to know me more, and see what I'm doing on a more day-to-day basis as opposed to just the cars. Uh, and so it's when I have people that will come on there and like reach out and like we'll have real heart to heart moments about things that if I'm going through something and somebody else has something that like as an uplifting thing to say to me or vice versa. It's honestly that's the coolest thing about it because these are just strangers that you don't know on in person. They're just people online really, and the fact that people can have that interaction with one another and not actually know each other in person is kind of crazy.
Are you ever surprised that people want to get to know and or follow you from a personal perspective after they find the page and they're like, "Hey, I just want to know, behind the scenes, who's the guy, who's the myth, who's the legend, what makes you tick on one end because of the success of the page?"
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've had people actually like explicitly tell me that, but I think maybe what their intentions are to some degree when they do follow me on my personal, and then they get to know me on a deeper level or more about me than just cars, right? And over time, they'll obviously get to know me more as I divulge things or post about more stuff on my personal. So it always ends up coming back to that. And like I said, those people that follow me on my personal, like I guess, are truly kind of invested in me, I guess, to some degree, to where they care about me more than just cars. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. So how would you say when you look back, getting to know the kind of the deep-rooted perspective of Garrett, how did you get into cars?
it was because of my older brother. He's 8.5 years older than me, and so like truly everything that I'm into, every hobby that I'm into has stemmed from him in some regards. My brother was he was always intrigued by different things. And so like he would get into it into a very like base level. And then I would obviously be always on his coattails or always watching what he was doing. And so like I would, find interest and intrigue in it as well. And so as I got older, I would always kind of I never knew how to do anything to a small degree. Obviously, we know as car guys we can't ever leave nothing alone. So like it's the same thing with any of the hobbies that I was into. I could never just get into it to a micro level. I'd always have to go to that top, try to get to the top level. And so that was the same thing with everything. So with cars, it started out with models, obviously. And when I finally started reading, I was reading, I can never remember the name of it. I found them online, but it was like from the late 90s, early 2000s. It was those, they sold them in like packets and you could put them in a three-ring binder. And it was like almost like a not a brochure, but sort of like I forget what they were called, but they were all about like the cars of the late 90s. So
Wow.
like they had like the Bugatti EV110, the Corvette, the Viper, and like it had all the stats on them. It was kind of like Motor Week, but in a print form.
Yeah.
And so like it would have like the details about the car and 0 to 60 times and all that stuff. And I used to read those religiously. I actually have them downstairs. Somebody sent them to me because I had made a post about it, and somebody had like three binders full of them, and they sent them to me,
That's
which was super
crazy.
cool. It was so
Yeah.
random. Yeah, somebody sent them to me. So I have them downstairs, but I can't remember what they're all. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head. I'll find
But
them
I
afterwards
get
though.
it. It's like a pamphlet or like a
Hmm.
info brochure. The funny thing
Yeah.
is just that you're saying the three ring binder alone. That kind of takes it back right there to the 90s where and to
Grade
think
school
that,
era.
that and I just love it because I could see you, right? Because I could see myself. I used to take like C10, K10, like parts catalogs to bed. Like literally like just
Hmm.
looking through it and just kind of fantasizing or dreaming about the parts I want to buy and how I would build something. And I could see like a young Garrett, like you're going through and you're studying all these stats on these cars and there's a deep rooted passion there. That's another thing I think is really cool about your page is people could have a page and they could have the hustle, they could do it, but it takes that passion to really know that the guy's really into it to the next level, to
Yeah.
just know what, because that's how you know what the audience wants to see because you're that passionate guy on the other end as well.